So why do we talk about NVIDIA so often? Well, as I've said on other shows, NVIDIA is the largest chip creator, maker for artificial intelligence. At one point earlier, I guess not too long ago now, this year, it was the largest company in the world temporarily, and then Microsoft passed it. And now, interesting enough, Apple is now the largest company once again. And many are actually talking about Apple being the first $4 trillion company with a $4 trillion market cap. The trillion dollar trio is that I always say, or the $3 trillion trio, NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple, biggest companies in the world today. So it's no wonder that we talk about NVIDIA as often as we have. And we also know that NVIDIA has made up, at one point this year, a third of the growth, 1/3 of the S&P 500 growth. Unbelievable how much NVIDIA, how well NVIDIA has done and how much of the growth it currently makes up. However, we've seen NVIDIA pull back recently. After it split, NVIDIA hit a high of around $140 a share, and it pulled back all the way to about 115, 118. Is that surprising to see? In my opinion, no. Investors taking some profit off the table. You can never go wrong taking profit off the table. Our first chart here will clearly show how NVIDIA has fared over the past, let's call it month or so, hitting that high 140, pulling back to 118. And now you can see on the far right-hand side of this chart, NVIDIA is starting to surge once again. Why is it surging? Because many analysts have now taken up their expectations for the stock to 150, 160, $160 a share. So when analysts start taking up their expectations, individual investors start to get excited again. They start to say, hey, if I got $20, $30 worth of growth on $120, $130 stock, that's a pretty good rate of return. And then people start to buy, driving up the price once again. But even though NVIDIA had a bit of a rough go, dropped 15% from, let's say, mid-June to recently, the stock market was still making all-time highs. And one of the things I wanted one of the points I wanted to bring out is we started to see other companies pick up the slack for NVIDIA. One of the names that I wanted to show is AMD, and we have a chart on AMD. Today, I can tell you AMD has actually gone over $180 a share, $176 a share here. And you can see here on the chart on the far right-hand side how much AMD has surged, pulled back from their high of about $227 not that long ago, back in, I guess it was back in March, pulled back over May and June, and now it's surging once again. Hopefully, it can get back to that $200 price point and beyond. So AMD, another large chip maker in the areas of PCs, AI, automotive, lots of different areas that AMD makes chips for, and they've definitely picked up the slack while NVIDIA had slowed down. Intel, a name that we don't talk about quite often, and a name that I've talked about, unfortunately, on the negative side of things. Even Intel has picked up the slack a little bit, going from, let's call it the high 20s, maybe $30 a share, into the mid 30s recently. A lot of people buying Intel, thinking that it is extremely cheap. Intel, as many of you will recognize the name, has been one of the largest chip makers in the world for many, many years. And it wasn't until the last maybe 5 to 7 years has Intel kind of fallen off a little bit. NVIDIA has surpassed them. AMD has taken a lot of their business away from them. So Intel is struggling right now, but their share price has definitely not struggled in the last little bit. And the third chart I wanted to show regarding stocks that have picked up the slack for NVIDIA. And this is the largest company in the world right now. This is Apple. And let's take a look at their chart. Wow, what a chart. $230 a share. I think it's a little bit above that now. And definitely the largest company in the world, definitely picking up the slack for a bit of a pause, let's say, in NVIDIA. So is NVIDIA, should we be selling our shares, or is this the pause that refreshes? I think if you ask most analysts, they're going to tell you that this is the pause that refreshes, and that based on what analysts are saying, based on their channel checks, on how much NVIDIA is selling, based on the spending of companies like Amazon and Microsoft and Meta and Apple, etc., based on a lot of these big tech names spending billions in artificial intelligence, I don't think NVIDIA is going to slow down anytime soon. The question then just becomes, can it keep up its rate of growth? If it can't, and if it does pull back a little bit from growing 200% every quarter to maybe just growing 100, 150%, we could see a bit of a pullback, even though the numbers would look fantastic. But I still maintain that it is a bump in the road and that we will see higher numbers down the road. I think you can take some profit off the table in NVIDIA, but I still think you want to be a holder of their shares going forward over the long term.